Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. My name is AJ and I'm here to talk about Boris Johnson, and I'm here to talk about this article where more details are being released about how this Aukus deal went down, how Boris had instigated it, how Boris had fooled Biden into thinking there's not going to be much of a reaction by the French, and how he was scheming all of this stuff behind his allies' back, especially the French, in the G7 meeting in England this year. So I'm going to tell you the full story about the ins and outs and what happened, and without further ado, let's get on with the show. Before I start, guys, I need a favor. I need you to like, share, subscribe, whatever you can to promote the channel. Try and watch the video to the end. It does help the algorithm. And let's try and get this channel to 10k and beyond, and try and get the truth spread out. And if you really like the channel, and if you really want to support what I do, then you can buy me a coffee or join my Patreon. So without further ado, guys, let's carry on. So I'm going to be talking about this article here, and this article gives you a brief lowdown on how Boris Johnson had instigated this Aukus deal. And it was all Boris Johnson's idea, and basically how he duped the Americans and how he duped his allies as well. So as we all know, so the Australians were not very happy with the French submarine deal, even though everything was signed and sorted out by 2016. They were not very happy with it because there was cost overrunning, there was delays, and they needed some submarines very quickly because they had one eye on China because of all this rhetoric going on by the Australian media and the politicians that China's the enemy. So they needed some subs really quick. So they were not very happy. And even though the French submarines are probably one of the best submarines in the world, there was a couple of war games that the French did with the US, and there was a few times that the US could not find the French submarines, and basically in these war games the French had won. They basically sank half of US fleets, including their aircraft carriers, using their conventional diesel submarines, electrical diesel submarines. They are extra quiet. They are one of the best in the world. Super technology. So that's one of the reasons why Australians decided to go for these French submarines, really. But with costs overrunning and things being delayed, they needed something quicker. So Morrison and Johnson, I think, probably had a brief conversation at some point. There were, and even maybe Trump as well. I mean, this was probably going on for a couple of years. And Morrison probably said to Boris at the time, we're not very happy with the French, with this submarine deal and stuff. And Boris probably said to Morrison, look, you know what, we can give you nuclear submarines. However, we can't sell it directly to you, or we can't transfer the technology because the nuclear submarine that we have is based on US technology. So what I'll do is we're having a G7 meeting soon. We'll get a room together, and we'll get you, Biden, and myself. We'll sit together in the room, and we'll discuss the deal and see how we can go forward. How's that sound? And Morrison's like, yeah. Then Morrison said, that sounds great, mate. If you can pull this off, I'll put a couple of shrimps on the barbie for you. Yeah, how's that sound? And Boris is like, yeah, mate. Don't worry, we're the same colour, you know what I mean? Speak the same language, and we have the same queen and all that. Yeah, don't worry, I'm your brother. I'll sort it out. Don't worry. So the G7 came, and they said to Biden, hey, Biden, come in this room with me and Morrison. Boris said, we want to discuss something with you. So Boris, Morrison, and Biden sat in a little room together, and they said, okay, look, the Aussies are not very happy with this French submarine deal. How about we transfer the technology to Australia? obviously some of the technology is US based, so we make money, you make money, Australia gets a sub, everybody wins. How's that sound? And Biden's like, yeah, good deal, man, good deal. And with Biden, he's very senile. He doesn't look at the big picture. His whole administration is very amateurish. They don't see any potential issues. They don't see any potential fallouts from this. So Biden probably said to him, "So what about the French?" And Boris and Morrison's like, "Oh, don't worry, they'll get over it. It's just a submarine deal. They'll get over it. They, like they always do. They're just Europeans. Just do what you want to them. They'll forgive you. Europeans will always be Europeans, and don't worry, you'll be water under the bridge after like a day or so." And Biden's like, yeah, sounds good. So in the G7, behind Macron's back, they agreed to this, and they probably had a few other phone calls in between, got a few details sorted out, and then they made the announcement. They probably thought at the time, this is a really great deal, and this is really going to scare the Chinese. What we're doing is really, really good in the grand scheme of things. And we're doing it out of national interest, and whatever happens will be great for us, and it'll be great for the world, and it's a great deal for everyone involved. And they didn't realize the fallout that this would cause. And the French obviously heard the news over the internet, or they saw an article on the news saying that they've been kicked out of the French submarine deal. The Aussies didn't even have the courtesy to call them. The British didn't have the courtesy to call the French, nor did the Americans. They did it all behind the French's back. And the French were like, "Sacre bleu! You stabbed us in the back!" And they were not happy. And they were very, very, very unhappy. The whole French... I was watching some French channels, and all I could see is them talking about Aukus, talking about how they're going to deal with this, and talking about leaving. Some of them talk about leaving NATO. Some of them talking about changing their position with China, and try and make deals with China and Russia. So it was causing a lot of issues in France, and the Boris himself. Boris was just shrugging it off, and you can see Boris Johnson accuses the French president of behaving like a jilted lover over a submarine row. I mean, what the hell is Boris on about? Because this deal is worth about 90 billion. It's not small change. 90 billion. And, it's a lot of money. And the French, obviously had earmarked that money for their defense spending as well, and obviously they had plans for that money, and now all of French's defense spending has gone out the window because of that 90 billion. Imagine if the French did that to the UK, and UK lost 90 billion because of this deal. Seriously, I mean, what the hell is Boris on about? So it's not just the French that this is pissed off. It's pissed off the Indians as well. It's pissed off the Japanese, and it's pissed off the Indians and Japanese because they probably wanted to be part of this Aukus deal. They wanted to have nuclear powered submarines. They would love to have it. So India was pretty much unhappy about it, and the fact that India, Japan and Australia are part of the Quad, and now Australia's going to have nuclear powered submarines while India and Japan are not. So they're going to feel like the weak links in the Quad, and so India are obviously unhappy about it because obviously this has gone behind their backs. Japan are unhappy about it, but let's put this into perspective, shall we? I mean, India and Japan are pretty much poodles of the West at the moment, and they're like, it's like women that get cheated on by their boyfriends, and these women keep coming back for more. That's what India is like, and that's what Japan is like. It's like, whatever you do to them, you can just cheat on them, beat them up, do whatever you want, kick them out in the curb, and they'll come back and say, yes sir, whatever you say sir, yes sab. It's like that. India and Japan are so deep into this Western relationship that they've got no sovereignty, they've got no mind of their own. They'll just do whatever these white supremacists say and want of them, and they'll do it. And as you've seen, the Indians have been very quiet, the Japanese have been very quiet, but obviously they did not expect, I'm talking about Boris and Biden, did not expect the French reaction and the European reaction as well. The Europeans are on the French side at this point. And so they didn't expect this. Biden didn't expect this. So Biden was pretty much fooled by Boris, really. Boris said there's not going to be much of an impact. The French will understand. They will understand the big picture. The fact that it's all about containing China. They'll understand because of it. But the French did not understand. It truly is a stab in the back. Literally going behind their backs, making this deal. Under their noses in the G7, even. So this is going to cause a lot of issues, trust issues. This is going to cause a huge amount of geopolitical issues. The French and the Germans, and the Europeans, this is just going to push them closer to China and closer to Russia. And the country that's going to lose out the most is UK. And the reason is, UK has just had this Brexit with the Europeans, and it's just alienated the Europeans even more. It's pissed off the French and the Europeans even more. UK has been shown as not a trusted ally, and they do things behind your backs. Even America does that as well. They do things behind your backs and stab you in the back. So they're not looked at as a trusted ally. So the UK is going to be pretty much isolated in Europe. Well, they're not in Europe, but away from Europe. And the bad news is, Boris went to. This is so funny. Boris went to America to meet with Biden, and he was given such a cold reception by not only Biden but also by Kamala Harris. And he came out of this meeting with nothing, absolutely nothing. Boris and his, Brexit party, Brexit cronies promised. They promised that Britain would have a free trade deal with America once they leave Europe, and once they, leave the European Union. They promised that, and that was one of the reasons they pushed for Brexit. They said, we're going to get great trade deals, especially with America and around the world, and also with China and all these other countries. If we leave Europe, we're going to be the best country in the world, blah blah blah. And now America's pretty much jilted them like a jilted lover, and Britain is out there in the cold. The Europeans don't like Britain. Now America has big trust issues with Britain because Boris has pretty much duped Biden. I mean, Biden is pretty dumb as it is, and he's very slow and very senile, and he probably didn't understand what kind of issues this would cause, and he didn't look at the big picture, and his admin is very amateurish. They probably even didn't see it themselves. But Boris was probably like, what Boris is like? Yeah, don't worry, yeah, Biden, don't worry, mate. Your French will be alright. Give him a day or two, don't worry. Probably Boris just fooled Biden, and Biden was not very happy. And you can tell by the cold reception he got in Washington. It was absolutely cold reception by Kamala Harris, cold reception by Biden. They are not happy with Boris at all. That he fooled them into doing this deal behind the French backs, because the Americans need Europe more than they need Britain. And even Obama said at the time, he said the important thing is getting a trade deal with the European bloc, and Britain will be right at the back of the queue. So and this is going the same route, and exactly the same route. So Britain has been duped, completely duped, and they're isolated. And this is some of the results from this isolation. So you can see, first of all, there's the gas prices rising in UK, and this is mainly due to Brexit, and also Europeans are having huge gas issues. But with the Europeans, they basically share the gas. If one country has more than enough gas, it shares it with other countries, things like that. So, and they got gas coming in from Russia, and Russian supplies are at the moment very low. I don't know if Russia is doing that on purpose, because they want Nord Stream 2 to be approved. So that will be approved very soon. So Europe will be back in back to normal pretty soon. But Britain is pretty much isolated. They used to get gas from the Europeans, last year, but not this year. And because of Brexit, they are completely isolated. So gas supplies are going up, and these gas supply companies are going down day by day. So there's about 50 to 70 gas supply companies, and one by one they're just shutting down because they can't afford it. And the reason they can't afford it, because the gas prices are so high, but there is also a cap on increasing the bills. So they can't increase the bills to put it to the customer, because the government has got a cap on it. So all of these companies are making a big loss, so they're just shutting down one by one. So what's going to happen is all of these customers are being transferred to bigger gas companies, and once there's about 2 or 3 companies left and they can't afford any more customers, or they can't afford to go down, to kind of carry on with their business, that's when the government will step in, and that's when the government will bail them out. And again, it's going to cost them a lot of money to do that. So that's a huge issues at the moment for Britain. There's also, as these customers go from company to company, so when a company goes bust, the customers automatically get transferred to the next company, and obviously they've got to pay higher bills, and so there's going to be huge bills coming up. There's also a tax increase made this year with the national insurance to pay for Boris's ridiculous spending, which I'm going to go into later. But they're also looking at increasing council tax as well, and they're looking at increasing more and more tax because UK is losing money big time. So I want to also talk about where most of this money is going. So what Boris is doing, he's boosting defence budget by 21.9 billion. This was Boris increasing his defence budget, and not only that, he's increasing the nuclear warhead stockpile by more than 40%. So this figure is, you can see here, it's going to go from 180 to 260 warheads, and it's going to cost an extra 10 billion. So in total, he's charging over 30 billion in defense, and he's making people pay more taxes and stuff like that, and people are not happy. Unfortunately, people are very stupid in UK, and a lot of them don't realize that he's pulling wool over their eyes. And for example, this article came out that, warns of spiraling cost of UK nuclear weapons program, and is saying that eventually it could cost up to 172 billion with all these nuclear arms and things like that they're doing, and maintenance and stuff like that. All of that's going to cost money. And not only that, I want to show you this queue. These are queues for basically petrol stations, because they're running out of petrol as well, and people are panic buying. There's huge queues outside petrol stations all over UK, and people are panic buying. People are running out of petrol, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And not only that, there's empty shelves all over UK because they don't have enough lorry drivers because of Brexit, to bring in many goods and food and things like that. So there's empty shelves all over UK. I'm surprised there's no riots going on against the government at this point. I'm just absolutely gobsmacked. And it's all because of Brexit. They promised Brexit would give everyone better lives, but it hasn't. It's just making things worse. And not only that, they're gonna complete U-turn now. And one of the main reasons they voted for Brexit, they wanted to keep a cap on foreigners and things like that. Now they've gone a complete U-turn, and today they've passed a bill where they're gonna start letting foreigners back in, to especially delivery drivers, because there's a big shortage. So it's just complete new. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. There's other things as well. They're also going to charge a car tax as well. They're going to increase car tax proposals going on. So there's a lot of tax increases going on all over UK. Car tax, national insurance, council tax, all these other secret taxes they're going to put on all these people. But what people don't realise is most of it's going on defence, and most of it is going on these ships going halfway around the world to China. They're sending aircraft carriers all the way to China. And do you think that is cheap? That is literally millions. You're sending your huge crew. Sending an aircraft carrier, and plus the maintenance and costs of sending something like that all over the world. And they're sending stuff to Russia. That costs millions. I don't know what the hell Boris is doing, and a lot of people are just fooled by it all. They think, this is normal. It's not normal. It's all because of Boris's ridiculous stuff that he's doing around the world. Starting with Brexit and doing all the defense military stuff, and his Cold War against China. Absolutely ridiculous. Britain is so isolated at the moment. There's no free trade deal going on between the US. There's no trade deal between the Europeans. So they're pretty much isolated. It makes sense to make friends with China and try and build a relationship with China. But no, they're not going to do that. They'd rather be isolated and go through all this crap, like traffic jams and having no petrol, having no gas, having nothing on the shelves. They'd rather live like that than, start looking at, other opportunities. I'm just completely gobsmacked by how Boris is and how UK is at the moment. I'm just completely surprised by the incompetence of the government in UK. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.